This special meeting of the Township Council for Budget Review is called to order. Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this budget hearing of the Franklin Township Council was made as required, indicating that this budget hearing would take place remotely via Zoom at 7 p.m. on Monday, March 10th, 2025.
We could recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Councilman Karazi?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yeah.
Councilmember Potosnik?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Udine?
Here.
Councilman Vassanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
Here.
To a motion to open to public discussion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We're open to the public. 5 minutes, no yielding of time. They only come up once. Please say your name and address. Do they have a phone number they can call in?
Yeah.
They just have to raise their hand, Mr. Mayor.
Raise their hand for if they're on here, but is there a phone number to call?
Yes.
There is, and there's no one in from phone calls.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak, raise their hands. Seeing no one?
Seeing no one, I'll motion to close the public portion. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are closed to the public. Mr. Vornlocker, it's your show.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first budget is Human Resources. The Human Resources Director, Raven Williams, is here with us. I'm going to share her budget and then probably turn my camera off because my face will be close to my laptop screen. I assume that's all present, able to be viewed by everyone?
Yep.
Looks good.
So the Human Resources budget is proposed at $137,600, a decrease of $615 from the 24 budget of $138,215.
Recording in progress.
There's just some minor adjustments. As you see, $1,000 decrease in medical expenses, including physicals, and some slight increases for professional association dues and other contractual items. Raven, do you have anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add.
Any council members have any questions?
Just thank you for keeping there under the budget. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
If that is everything for Raven, I can. So I'm prepared to move on to the assessor. I just want to make sure if our assessor, Mr. Carabelli, is here. I don't see his name, but he's indicated that he was logged in a text message. So perhaps he's here under an assumed name. Mr. Carabelli, if you are out there under a different name, please raise your hand on the screen. We'll see if I can get him on the phone. Otherwise, we'll move to the next. Just give me 1 second. So Mr. Carabelli is trying to get logged in, and he's having a difficult time right now. So I'm going to jump to the next item on the agenda, which is purchasing, which is Cindy Bellinger. Cindy, you're out there. I saw your face earlier.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So scrolling down, the purchasing budget is proposed at $118,245, an increase of $4,345. The bulk of that in postage at $38.85, with a slight adjustment of $460 for conferences and meetings. So Cindy, do you have anything to? You can explain postage. Go right ahead.
I think it's kind of self-explanatory with postage.
So postage is up because the Postal Service increased the postal rates.
Yeah, that's out of our control unless we don't mail as many things.
Cindy, what are the typical things that you mail?
Well, I mail nothing because I'm of the philosophy of everything has to be automated and scanned and everything else. So I mail everything that I can. So
Unfortunately, we have to mail tax bills and water bills and all of those other bills and correspondence that's mandated to come from the town. So it's primarily are required items to be mailed.
Got you.
Are there any other questions for Cindy? Going once?
Can you hear
I'm
me?
sorry. I can, yes.
Yeah, just it's pretty straightforward. Thank you, Cindy.
It is. Okay. So the next one on our list is municipal court. We just open up that spreadsheet. We'll have two budgets to discuss here. First is the court itself. Okay. Share. Municipal court is proposed at $32,300, which is an increase of $200. There was a $300 decrease. I'm sorry, $3,000 decrease in printing and binding. A $3,000 increase for professional consultant and specialized services, and a $200 increase in books and publications. Kayla Martinez, our court administrator, is here. Kayla, do you have anything to add to your budget?
No, the professional and consultant increase was due to interpreting.
Which is a requirement to have a human being interpreting in court sessions
Yes.
when necessary? Okay.
Why did printing and binding go down?
Our officers are now utilizing e-tickets more. So.
Okay, great. Any questions from council?
If not, I'll stop sharing this one and open up the other one for the court. Just bear with me, which is the prosecutor budget, which is primarily salaries, but we should include it here. Here we have the salaries for the prosecutors. There was no change in the salaries for the principal and associate prosecutors, as well as the alternate prosecutors. So $86,900 budgeted last year and $86,900 budgeted this year. Any questions on the prosecutor?
No, we pick them and we set their pay. Not much to
You
add.
do. So I didn't think there would be much. Exactly, Mr. Mayor. So that is the court. And if you have no other questions for Kayla, we can now go to assessor because Mr. Carabelli is here. Any other questions for Kayla on the court? Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Carabelli has gotten in, so I'm going to share his budget momentarily. The assessor's budget is proposed at $117,700. That's a $5,550 decrease from the 2024 budget of $123,250. There was actually an increase in the line for postage and express charges. Here's more postage for those of you who saw the other mention of postage. There is a $600 decrease in printing and binding, a $1,000 decrease in conference and meetings, a $1,000 decrease in education and training, and a $100 increase in professional association and dues, and a $50 decrease in other equipment and supplies. Mr. Carabelli, anything about your budget that you would like the council to know?
Nothing new, pretty much same old, same old. Some of the expenses went down, printing and binding. They no longer print the tax list for us. It's all digital. So it saved a couple dollars there. And some of the conference fees in education, since we're short a deputy assessor, obviously we won't incur those expenses, at least momentarily. But otherwise, I think it's pretty much the same as I've had since 2010.
Okay. Council members, any questions for Mr. Carabelli?
He's no longer paying for fax, email, and internet. Why was he paying?
I believe that those charges have been combined in another budget. Those are for the handheld devices that the assessor, the field inspectors take with them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good job.
Anyone else, any questions before I take the budget down?
Thank you.
Okay. Recreation, Stephen Dahl, our recreation director, is here tonight for the recreation budget. Stephen, bear with me and I will open your budget momentarily. He'll be here for two budgets. One is pretty straightforward, that's senior transportation, but I'll opening up the recreation budget, which unfortunately I wish I could make them open faster, but my computer will only go so fast. Perhaps I should discuss it with the IT director later in the budget presentations. So this is something that I just kind of want to explain before we get into the discussion on the budget. The 2024 budget for recreation was at $105,530. That included all of the other expense budget items, the general fund budget items for the youth center last year. the youth center has now been split out. We'll have that following recreation. But the finance officer met with both the youth center director and the recreation director. There was an evaluation done of those expenses in 2024, where cuts could be made. The youth center is funded primarily from our recreation trust. So the budget at $50,900 with the $23,000, $500 reduction is also reflecting the move of the youth center into their own budget. So the adjustments are perhaps, I don't want it to be deceiving, but there are adjustments made to this budget that include not only reductions, because there are reductions here, as you'll see when we bring up the youth center, there is an overall reduction between the two departments from that 105,530. But the recreation budget currently sits at 68,730. So Stephen, do you have anything that you can add to what I just said?
The only thing that I'll point out, if you look under professional association dues, we're working with the youth center because we incur a savings by doing our association dues together. So that's why that line is a little bit higher. But the youth center and I have kind of worked together to make sure that we have that savings together for those association dues.
And this year we've also included $1,000 in education and training.
That was moved. It used to be under conferences and meeting, and it was split out to education and training.
Okay. No. Council, any questions for Stephen on this budget?
Bob, it's not the budget, but just for what it's worth, I was trying to show my video. It says the host has locked me out of showing my video.
Krista?
Go ahead. I'll let you.
Okay.
There you go.
Not that everybody wants to see me, but I just didn't want people to think I was, disappeared. Thank you. I have no questions. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. You're welcome.
I just have a question. Hello?
Sure.
So
Yep,
question, education and training, I see that 1,000 department request, and then between 25, 24 says 1,000. So there was nothing last year, and then we're just asking for something this year?
So it was moved from conferences and meetings because it better describes the item that was utilized, that funding was utilized in prior years. That, as opposed to conferences and meetings. There's a reduction.
You split it out.
Yeah,
you took it out from there. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one?
I have a question.
Sure.
So what was the rationale behind breaking out the two budgets? I'm just curious.
Because they're no longer, they're each under a department head now. They're separate departments, so they have separate budgets.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that one? If not, I'll move on to, as I said, there's one small budget. And then, Stephen, I'd ask that you stay during Wendy's in case there's any of those other crossover questions that you might be able to help answer. But the next one is senior transportation. It's a one-line budget item, so.
And we're paying the county that much more.
Exactly, $1,849. This is a 2% increase annually under a contract for shared services for Somerset County Transportation to operate our senior transportation bus. So it goes from 92,423 to 94,271.84 to be exact. So this is just an annual contract. I didn't think anyone would have any questions, but I want everyone to see what the town pays for the county to provide the driver and maintenance on our bus.
I have a question, Bob.
Go ahead, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you. Have we done a comprehensive review of whether or not we need more services, whether part of this contract, expanding more substantially our senior transportation availability, or otherwise, if not to go with the county, but have we really done a comprehensive study? I mention it because, it's related to the budget, because if there is a need or a need going forward, it would obviously affect the budget. So I thought it was appropriate to ask now. And if we did, what did we do to kind of find that out, and what were the results?
So, I mean, I think that you certainly would have known if we did a comprehensive study, because it would have been announced at council meetings as far as that's concerned.
Well,
but
sometimes we
Stephen,
just
has
do
there
research.
been, so no, the answer is no, we haven't, and you certainly would have known about it. Stephen, has there been a additional demand for senior transportation that hasn't been met by the current contract with Somerset County?
It has. We're currently not filling up our bus for all of our 3 social clubs and the other programs that we typically use that for. So we're currently meeting that need. Now we can still work with the county to find out those numbers as we go along to see if that need increases.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes the need grows, and then we obviously have to re-examine. I haven't heard any specific complaints. I have heard people ask for more senior transportation, but not specific to the clubs.
So I have a comment to make. The only thing that I've heard often from the senior representative, liaison for the senior committees, is the transportation at night. They said that they'd like to come, for example, to the council meeting, but they don't have any transportation, or they don't want to drive. And so is there any consideration to extend the hours or provide some sort of transportation in the evenings?
So it's my understanding right now that Somerset County does not have evening bus drivers for the transportation department in Somerset County, so for any of the routes that they run. So that would be an expansion of their offering if we were to try to do that. It would have to go beyond Somerset County.
I have a comment.
Sure.
It's a spending money comment. The sound system at the senior center, community center, every time I go, there's trouble with the mics. Do we need to invest?
So that would be a question for you, Stephen.
So those microphones, for lack of a better way to describe it, eat batteries. So they often go through batteries. We probably, out of anything with our sound system equipment, buy more batteries than anything else. So I don't know if it's the microphones. I don't know if it's the sound system. We can certainly investigate and see what it is. But usually they are left on because it's easier for the seniors to just pick it up and use it, as opposed to them understanding how to turn it off and turn it on or mute it to save some of that energy in there. So that seems to be the biggest problem we incur with them.
Mr. Mayor, besides the sound system, that whole area often is a topic of discussion to upgrade and make it look nice. So Stephen is in the loop, and I hope we will address that as well.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Mayor?
No.
Next budget will be our Youth Center Director, Wendy White, with the Youth Center budget. I'll put it up on the screen. So as I said, the Youth Center budget is proposed at $96,007, which clearly is far less than the $102,730 that the total recreation budget was for 2024, and it also is when added to the recreation budget for 2025, there's still a significant decrease in the OE budget, and that has much to do with moving the youth center into their own budget, and two things related to that. Programming, a significant programming grant that is being utilized currently to fund a number of youth center programs, that grant having been received from the state of New Jersey with a matching grant to the Somerset Community Action Program to provide youth center programming. And I'll let Wendy White, the director, take it from there. Wendy? I know I saw your face.
She's there. She's.
Can you hear me?
She was just there.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you are.
Yes.
Now we hear you, Wendy.
Okay, all right, computer problems. No, I was saying, yes, we received a DCA grant that we are currently spending down through the end of this year. So we've been able to really dramatically increase the number of program offerings to youth center members. So we're really happy about that. So after this year, obviously, we'll take a look at what our programming costs will be, and that'll be reflected in our next budget. Very much like recreation, the education and training dollar amount used to be in conferences and meetings, and our association dues for NJRPA, we're sharing those with Stephen, and recreation for the cost savings. So.
Is there formula error there, Bob, on the education and training? It's not picking up something, right?
That's just a year-to-date budget. When it's a zero in the year-to-date, it's going to have, there's no, the formula has nothing to divide it by.
Wendy, how much is the grant from DCA?
The DCA grant was $750,000. Really, it was $1.5 million, whereas SCAP received half. They have the matching part of that, and then we have $750,000.
So you mentioned that if that is not renewed or if it's not awarded next year, we will see that in this budget?
Well, we won't see $750,000 in the budget, but you know, obviously that grant, and thanks to Councilwoman Francois for her advocacy and supporting the grant. You know, it won't be that dramatic, but, you know, there will be, you know, some potential additional costs with regards to programming. You know, the good news is that we've been able to partner with a lot of people in the community. So a lot of the offerings and programs prior to getting the grant, we were able to provide for free. So we can certainly make sure that we're looking again at that model so that it can continue to be cost effective for the township.
The other thing is, Councilman, and I think Wendy can touch on this a little bit, the $750,000 is not only paying for programming, but it's also paying for other things as well that are being utilized as now more permanent purchases that can be used for years going forward as far as equipment is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first moved in the building, we had to borrow a lot of things from recreation, and you know, Stephen has been very gracious and kind in that regard. But having to kind of transport things from building to building was a little cumbersome. But with the grant, we were able to buy things like our own, you know, speakers and microphones and podiums and things like that, so that when we have programs and presentations, with or without the students or with Township, we're able to set those things up right in our building.
And do you want to touch a little bit on transportation for your building and what you're doing in reference to that?
Oh, yeah. So we piloted successfully this past summer a shuttle program because one of the things that we were finding is that while we got a lot of foot traffic from youth that lived in the area, there were a number of parents who were inquiring about, you know, is it possible to get some shuttle support for their student, for their child who would also want to come to the youth center. You know, there's still a lot of parents who will drop off their child and come pick them up because they're able to do that with their schedule for work or what have you, but there were some parents who inquired. And so one of our staff members pulled together a kind of a map of the township in terms of the key areas where we could pick students up. And we utilized one of the recreation vans, again, borrowed from Stephen, and we used that during the summer to shuttle kids at specific times back and forth to the youth center. And we're also going to use some of our funding to buy our own van, so that, certainly we love borrowing from Stephen, but having our own van will give us that much more flexibility, and we can accommodate that many more students easily because it'll be right there at the center.
And what we're able to do with the youth center is utilize part-time employees. The transportation doesn't require a commercial driver's license because the van is smaller than that would require a CDL. So we have a number of part-time employees in the youth center. In fact, a good portion of the overall staff works on a part-time basis, so they can provide that service when the peak season is in swing, especially during the summer.
Yeah, and it's coming up, so we're excited about that.
Wendy, is that fund for multi-year, or is that going to be utilized in a year? Is that a multi-year amount of 700,000, the grant?
No, it's just for this year, and so it's not. I don't believe it's something that's automatically renewed. So certainly we hope that there'll be other opportunities as we approach the new year. But that grant is through the end of this year.
Right, and that was a one-time use grant that, if you all recall, was obtained by Assemblyman Danielson.
Yeah, it's a great grant. We hope it's multi-year.
Yeah, the kids love it. We've been able to really expand, our programming in areas like ACT, SAT sessions that we're covering, which a lot of parents appreciate. So rather than paying a few $100s out of their pocket, we're able to, cover those costs and have the students take those prep classes in the youth center. We do drone programming, chess with cops, art programs. It's really exciting because we're getting more kids that are coming in because we have more of a variety. So,
so last week we learned we took a tour of the YMCA in Piscataway. There we learned that the counties have something called a recreation trust fund, and there may be some opportunities to request funding from there for any of our programs. So that's an avenue that we can probably pursue.
And we also still have a couple of corporate supporters that are providing just kind of like lump sum and some in-kind support as well. Amazon continues to step up. They actually stopped by the center last week with a snack donation and some other things. So
I have a question. If we did not have that grant, 750,000, how much will that have impact on the budget that you have? Do you see a sharp increase?
No, I don't, because one of the things that was very helpful to us when we first opened really was our partnership. So we have gotten a lot of support, not just from Amazon, but also the Canal Walk Men's Club, the Franklin Women's Club, there's the Triple B Foundation. There's a number of organizations that allowed us to offer programming that was free at no cost. The Franklin Police Department has been very supportive as well. The Chess with Cops program, and they also do an art program, and all of their programs are free. So no, I don't see it being a dramatic increase next year. I just think we were fortunate to get this huge grant this year, and we're just trying to spend it down so that we can offer as much as possible while we have it. But we can return to what we've done, perhaps with a little bit of extra help in the next year. But I don't see it being a sharp increase because we've, since we've been open, we've had a lot of support to make sure that our programs are, cost effective and mostly free.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before I take the budget down?
Quick question. as part of the transportation issue, youth that are of the appropriate ages during the school year, is there a built-in option that their bus will drop them at the students at the youth center, which seems like it would be a very efficient approach for some youth?
We're not getting a lot of students riding the school bus because usually those students are participating in after-school activities at the school. In terms of those schools that are further away, especially the high school. We're getting, mostly from the Franklin Park area and when the students actually get home versus leaving directly from school.
So
and I know that I'm sorry.
No, I know you're done. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That was actually the follow-up question, as I know there's a lot of youth in that corridor, and obviously not the best corridor for, someone to ride their bike and whatnot. So we have a way for them to go home and then sufficiently get all of these children up that corridor to the youth center. You're saying they usually go home, take a pause, and then come to the activities. That makes a lot of sense, but you don't see any transportation issue with make sure we're accommodating all that youth.
Right. So far, so good. I mean, we're getting a nice mix. We still have a lot of parents that pull up right to the front and drop their child off, and then they come and pick them up. So parents are still, driving them back and forth along with the shuttle, along with the foot traffic. So, right now we have multiple streams of attendees, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think it's still worth and not a highest priority to see if certain, if that would be an option that children could be dropped there. There may be no need. It's just maybe they'd go right to the youth center and alleviate the transportation aspect, both for the parents and the child's benefit. So maybe we could look into that going forward. I know we can't speak for the school board, but I think they would probably be open to something if it didn't, it didn't create a big burden for them. So anyway, just food for thought, and just trying to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. But
Absolutely.
Thank you for the great work.
You're welcome.
I have to step away for a minute. Deputy Mayor, you have the helm.
So are there any other questions for Wendy before or Stephen, for that matter, who's still here, I see?
I have a question for Wendy. So far of the $750,000 that we spent on the grant, how much is remaining?
We have a little bit over $500,000.
So there's still a significant amount that we have to spend.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't under the impression if we didn't use it by the end of the year, we would lose the money. I was not under that impression.
It's not that we're going to lose the money. We can ask for another extension. I've been talking to Jennifer Underwood. That's our contact at the state. And she just told me, if you can't do it at the end of the year, just ask for another extension. So.
Okay. So we'll probably have some money left over next year, I would imagine.
Yeah.
We have half $500,000 left.
Yeah.
And then SCAP still has some money left as well.
Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy, one more question. Are we offering any tutoring to students that they come there?
We have a small tutoring program. We don't get a lot of students for tutoring because usually they get that from the schools. We do have a quiet room. The library is also a space that offers, computers and tutoring and things like that. But when we've extended those opportunities, we don't get a significant amount of students.
That's because the kids come there and they want to play. They want to have fun. And that's what we've been finding out, believe it or not.
They want to do three things. They want to recreate, socialize, and decompress.
Yes.
Right.
And they
have school, they come to the youth center, they want to have fun.
Right. They've said to me, Miss, I was already in school. Why am I in school again? So it doesn't mean that we do offer it for those that, have the interest, but again, it's not a significant amount of, response. So.
Okay. Anyone else? Last bite of the apple.
No, I was just going to say the youth center is a place for everyone to have fun and games. They love it there. They love it.
They do. They do.
They
We have
don't
a
want
good time.
tutoring. They definitely don't want any tutoring.
No.
And we're having the Medley's March Madness basketball tournament finals this Saturday, I believe from 2 to 7. So if you're in the area, come on out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for promoting as always, Wendy. I would never expect anything less. Next up on the agenda is Mr. Healy, who's got several budgets under land use. Mark, are you there with us?
I am.
There he is. All right, so we'll start off, Mark, with the planning budget. Something that's near and dear to your heart. So the planning budget for 2025 is proposed at $186,250, which is flat on the budget of $186,250 from 2024. There's just a minor shuffling of funding, an additional $5,000 moved from professional and consulting services to legal services. So legal now at 130 over 125, and a reduction from 55 to 50 for professional consultant and specialized services. The remainder of the budget remains the same. Mr. Healy, what do you have to add to that?
I don't have anything to add.
Council, are there any questions on the planning board budget, which is also the zoning board budget for that matter?
Uniform allowance?
We have inspectors that are working the zoning department, and they're put in clothing that identifies them as township employees.
Okay.
Anyone else on this one? If not, I'll move to the next. And the next will be it's that one here, planning board gone. The next will be the engineering budget. The engineering budget is proposed at $141,345, and it is flat on the 2024 budget at the same number. All items are budgeted at that same number. The bulk of this is in professional consulting and specialized services, which is the contract for our township engineering services. Are there any questions on the engineering budget? Hearing none, I will move to the Environmental Commission. The Environmental Commission shows an increase of $4,400. That increase is reflected in other contractual items. That is the contract with Kenyon Planning for the sustainability officer position that serves the Environmental Commission. And I'm sure you're all familiar with Tara Kenyon's work as it relates to the Environmental Commission and the work that she's done with Safi Callan and special projects on a variety of projects related to sustainability. She's also the leader of the Green Team for Sustainable Jersey for the township. Are there any questions about the Environmental Commission budget? If not, I'll move to another exciting budget line, which is the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission budget is $1,000 and it is $1,000 flat. The items there are for, I believe, Mark, if you correct me, or even Vince, who's here, the $1,000 is for mandatory. Is it for the mandatory classes or is it for some other item?
Yeah, it's for classes, and on occasion they will attend the State Historic Commission conference every year. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but those are the two main expenses.
Okay. Any questions on the Historic Commission budget for Mr. Healy or me? Hearing none, I will stop sharing, and that completes the Land Use Committee budget. So if there are any questions for Mr. Healy at this time, now is your opportunity. Hearing none, thank you for your attendance, Mr. Healy.
All right, good night.
I'll see you in the morning. The next budget is the Economic Development budget. I believe we have Mr. Dominack here.
Very true.
Let me just get to you, Mr. Dominack. The economic development budget is, if I can scroll here, the mouse will let me, is proposed at $15,500, which is flat from the 2024 budget of $15,500. The first line is related to the Hamilton Street Advisory Board position that is a stipend for Mr. Dominack for holding that position. The remainder are conferences and meetings and professional association dues. The association dues are the membership with the Somerset Business Partnership.
And the chamber.
Oh, and that's right, and the Township Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for this budget? Or Mr. Dominack? Hearing none, I'll bring you all back to your Hollywood Square screen. Thank you, Mr. Dominack.
See you in the morning.
See you in the morning. Next budget is construction code. Construction official Barry Wilbur is here tonight with us. Open up that budget momentarily. The construction code budget is budgeted at $391,775. The budget for construction code is a little bit different than most departments in that all items where, for instance, there's a line for software licensing, there's a line for office supplies. The entire budget for the operation of the construction code department is done within the construction code department, as the Department of Community Affairs also requires a separate budget to detail all of the expenses related to construction, the Uniform Construction Code Office, so that it has a direct relationship to fees charged and collected for the various permits issued by the department. This budget is flat at $391,775. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Wilbur?
just as a academic question, do you have an idea how much permit fees we collect a year, or everything put together?
That information is available. I don't have it in front of me right now. We do a monthly report that shows where our standing is, and that report also has to be sent to the DCA.
My understanding, Councilman, based on a conversation with our financial consultant, is that the 2024 fee collection was down from 2023. So I think that that's reflecting a slowdown in certain aspects of construction in the township.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is there a DCA requirement to meet the expenses by the fees, or the township is required to subsidize or not?
No, actually,
really?
but the fees are intended to cover the expenses of the office, and not just these expenses, but there's also a calculation done for all aspects of the so heating, electricity, so utilities, telephones, all of those things are broken out in the DCA budget. They're to be self-sustaining from fees.
Right. That's the point I was trying to make. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, you're exactly correct. The construction department is completely self-sustained by fees collected. And that's why things that, like, we've consolidated many years ago, office supplies, but there's an office supply line in this budget for that particular reason, because they're to be self-sustaining from fees.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any other questions for construction? Okay. Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
See you tomorrow. The next we have is fire prevention. Our fire prevention director, John House, is here.
Yes.
Opening it up now, John. There we go. Okay, fire prevention budget is budgeted at $7,910, a decrease of $1,071 from $8,981. In my career, Mr. House has been the most specific budgeter of all department heads, sometimes to the penny, in this case to the dollar. And so, Mr. House, do you have anything to add to what I just said about your OE budget?
No, I don't. The only the reason for the decrease was last year we had to purchase, we got a new fire code, so we had to purchase the books, the code books for everybody, and that was the decrease. Otherwise, it would have been the same. But that's it.
And I'd just like to draw attention to the year-to-date 12/31 at 98.72%. One thing that John House does is he only budgets what he needs, and he spends what he needs. However, there is another source of financing for certain pieces of equipment that our fire prevention department utilizes. John, you just explain a little bit about the penalty trust.
Yes, a lot of our other expenses are covered under when a penalty is issued. That money has to go into a trust fund that can only be used for fire prevention. So that's where we go for whenever we need things other than what we budget for.
And what type of things do you purchase out of the trust?
We do some of our training. That's why we don't have training under here. We cover our training under that. Some of the equipment that we need. Trying to think of some of the other stuff.
Turnout gear for the firefighting aspect of
yeah,
the position?
correct. Yes, exactly. All the gear that we use, all that comes out of that trust fund.
Are there any questions on the fire prevention budget? Hearing none.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for John before he's gone about anything related to the fire prevention office budget or anything related to the fire penalty trust?
Thank you, John, for a great job.
Thank you.
Okay. The next department is information technology. That would be our new information technology director, Krista Hegedus, who I think is also running this meeting on the backside. So, Krista, I will bring up your OE budget first. So the IT budget is the first that you'll see a significant increase in from 2024. We'll have some discussion about the primary cause of that. The IT budget is proposed at $692,095, an increase of $201,794. With $192,544 of that $201,000 in the software licensing line. Krista, are you there?
Here. Can you hear me?
Krista, yes, I can hear you. Krista, is there something, I think we should probably focus most on the software licensing line. Can you explain why the increase of $192,000 in 2025?
Yes. Primarily, there's I know we're going to talk about cyber insurance compliance with mandated software. There's more purchases that were made that were made last year that we have to continue to be at the top tier for cyber insurance. But also all of the software has increased about 10% across the board. So that's mainly why the increase. But I did actually find a discrepancy of $26,000 that will come off of this and will be charged to water. There's census software license that was under capital, and it was moved to the IT budget, but census is the water meter reader software, and that will be charged to water.
So it won't go away, it'll just move to another budget.
Correct.
And I'd just like to draw attention to the fact that out of the $692,000 budget, $553,000 of it is in software licensing. So there's not a significant amount more over and above the software licensing. And the IT department is obviously responsible for the maintenance of all of our equipment that is outside of warranty. So that would be the maintenance of other equipment line at 026 for $71,000. And you can imagine that there's a lot of IT equipment out there that oftentimes needs repair that is sent off-site and not done in-house, given the nature of the repairs.
Krista, can you repeat again the number for the water software that's going to be moved over?
26,000.
Just 26,000, right? 26,000.
Correct.
So are there any other questions here on this budget? We'll move to the capital budget once we're done with this one for IT.
Just a
I
question.
had one question. Go ahead.
So just the question I had is the maintenance of other equipment is a 71,000. That increase, is it primarily due to the cost of things just going up? Because I'm looking at the line across, I see it's like around 62,000, and then it's jumped to 71,000 this year.
Krista?
What? I'm sorry. What was the line? I'm sorry.
Was the maintenance of other equipment went up by $7,400? Was that because of inflationary cost increases for repairs or some other reason?
Hold on a second. Let me look.
Sure.
That is let's see. I actually don't know what was last year's. I didn't look. What?
It was 63.6.
No, I mean what was added to this from last year that we didn't have. To be honest, the enable backup, our backup, and we used to have hardware for backup, and it actually is now cloud-based. So that actually be moved to software next year. But everything else I think we had last year, so I don't know what the increase was. So probably due to inflation, because like I said, everything has gone up quite a bit when we got quotes. We didn't add anything, so
First, I have a question too. The AI, are you expecting any changes in this cost or additional cost as a result of perhaps implementation of any AI in the township operation?
I do not have any plans, no. Mm-mm.
So for those of you who may recall, how long have you been in this current position now, Krista?
1 month.
1 month. Bob McQueen, our former IT director, was primarily responsible and did have an opportunity to go over this budget both with me and Krista prior to his departure. So Krista's kind of hit the ground running. So if there are questions like what was just asked, we can certainly look at that. And at the next budget hearing, Krista will be there as well because she'll be running the meeting on the back end. And we can see if we can get an answer for that question as well, Councilwoman Edine.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Are there any other questions on this portion of the IT budget?
Yes, Bob. By the way, Krista, great work. And I know you've been here a long time and understand this much better than us council people. So my question is this, and tell me if I'm assuming incorrectly. I'm assuming that all of the security of all the personal and financial information related to, well, water and tax comes to mind. There may be other areas. Obviously, those are the big areas where people make payments. So assuming all of that security falls onto the IT and the work you do there in that department, are those aspects of, are those costs related to that relevant to, say, water and tax? Are they billed under your department, and I before when you were talking about something being billed to water, it triggered this question. So it's more of just a technical question. I totally understand if that's something you don't have ready tonight. I'm just curious. Because I see security. Go ahead. Thank you.
There are a lot of software lines that get split between water and IT and actually code. So, yeah, not everything is, we take care of the payment, like we do the purchase orders, but they do get split out.
Taxes.
Not taxes, water, just water and construction and IT.
Okay. I imagine, hopefully not, but those costs just may increase. Obviously, we want to make sure all that is as secure as it needs to be.
So the answer, the quick answer to that, so I'll answer a little bit here because it also plays into what Krista touched on, and I think I can expand on it a little bit. So our cybersecurity that not only protects the financial aspects of the town, but the overall network. So as you're aware, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting, we're a member of the Central Jersey Joint Insurance Fund. And I know that you've done your cybersecurity training, as have all the council members and all of the staff. Every employee who has the ability to touch the network is required to take that training. Well, within the Joint Insurance Fund is a cybersecurity insurance policy where we're required to meet certain levels of security as it relates to our software and hardware and network connections. So a great deal of that software licensing here and in some other departments are directly related to the costs associated with the protection of our network. And if we don't meet those standards, it has an adverse effect on our insurance and our ability to make a claim should there ever be a cybersecurity attack on our network. So that is exactly why we're spending the money on those things within that software licensing, and also as far as the hardware is concerned, that we'll talk a little bit within the next budget that we're going to talk about tonight. So yes, that is exactly why we're spending the money, Councilman, so that we maintain a high level of security on every aspect of our network.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions on this part?
Nope, nothing else. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the IT capital budget, and I'll just bring that one up.
As you're doing that, Bob, welcome Krista to the team.
Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know, and I am very happy and welcoming Krista to this level of involvement. Krista has been a township employee in our IT department for 23 years now, Krista?
24.
24. I shortchanged you by a year. So I have the utmost confidence in Krista. She has an absolute full understanding of our network and all of the things related to it. So it was kind of a no-brainer to see her move up into the director position.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's good.
So now we talk about tech. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was saying, and don't forget, a lot of people may not know, she was also instrumental in us literally getting our TV station on the air over 20 some years ago, well before I got on council, when very few people, very few towns had it. And I think that was the best community outreach, government transparency initiative we've ever done. And thank you.
Okay. So now I'm going to see if I can manage to use my IT skills to share the IT capital budget on your screen. Okay, so there are a number of items here, and this is a 5-year capital, well, actually 6-year capital plan, because we kept 2020 on it. But this is the yellow column is 2025, and I'll just move down the line here. There's $85,000 requested here for computer printer server iPad replacement program. That's an annual replacement program for end-of-life hardware. And then Krista, something I'm going to ask you to explain. Server room UPS refurbishment updates at $50,000.
So every building has battery backup units, and the batteries need to be replaced during some time. So we have one big, huge rack in our server room that gets maintenance every year, and the batteries need to be replaced this year. I'm actually looking into getting all of them on the maintenance plan because a battery goes down and hardware will go down. So there are some at the police station that did go down and we had to replace. So that's what that's for.
Okay. And the next one is telephone system upgrade at $75,000.
Hardware and software are all out end of life come August of this year. So I am working to get that upgraded.
And this is our Cisco.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think you're about to answer. I think you're about to answer my question.
That's our Cisco VoIP telephone system throughout all of our buildings.
Yes.
I hesitate to call them hardline phones because they're all internet protocol phones now. We don't have. We have a very, very, very select few for. The police department of old copper POTS lines for redundant backup, but that's it. And then the next is video surveillance upgrade at $75,000.
So the police put a request in for additional cameras. They did ask for pan tilted zoom cameras, which Meraki is who we go with, and they do not offer that. So we have to add, their goal is to have 360-degree coverage, security coverage of the complex. So we have to add a few more cameras to get that full 360-degree.
There's a number of areas of the municipal complex that have weaknesses that have been identified by the police department as far as video surveillance. So that's that cost is for that purpose. The next is municipal WAN upgrades, core municipal network, and core switches, $60,000.
So again, our hardware and switches, we have to continuously keep up with the end of life ones. So this is to replace some of them. Not all of them would be. And as you can see in the years past, you don't want to hit the 125,000 mark every year, so it gets split out. We'll replace some of them that are needed.
Next is Township Network Expansion Resiliency Wi-Fi Fiber Domain, $75,000.
So there was talk about Wi-Fi in our municipal complex for events that are that are held here, like fireworks, sometimes Franklin Day. Now, the idea, I guess, was to have a closed Wi-Fi, but also we could have the guest Wi-Fi for people to, but mostly for staff to be able to access the network while they're out there.
And that would be staff to include the police department?
Correct. Anybody that's, they were thinking along all the way down the line of trees between the library and the municipal, all the way down to rec.
Okay. Wi-Fi upgrade at the gazebo.
So they put Wi-Fi at the end of the building, of the municipal building, and it's not really reaching over to the gazebo very well. It's very intermittent. So we're looking to get the Wi-Fi extended out to that area for when we have events at the gazebo.
Okay. And door access system replacement in the public safety building.
So another request by public safety, they want to add for security to provide more security for confidential areas that they don't have door access to.
You're talking about the card swipe.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Digital signage, and I know that this is interior digital signage within our building. And I think not just our building, maybe this is more than one building.
This is actually, well, I know the prior IT director asked for many years for it, but the community center actually, Stephen had asked to utilize there's TVs in the rooms, but then also I don't know if there's actually hardware there yet, but to get signage for the rec center, the community center, sorry.
So that's what that's for. Okay. Mm-hmm. Phone system router and switches, $30,000.
Okay. That is actually end of life now. So we have to replace the routers and switches, and I got my quotes and it's actually higher than that. So I have been trying to bring that cost down that I got quotes for and see if they just quoted us on exactly what we have and if we really still need everything we have. So that is being worked on right now.
Video surveillance upgrade outdoor.
So this is I'm not sure why it was separated, but this is really more cameras for the outdoor area. That there were cameras. We're going to put cameras where the fire cars, the trucks park, in that little.
The old Sally Port.
The horseshoe and the Sally Port. Yeah, there's blind spots around our building as well.
So this is the first one was for blind spots for the police department. This is for the municipal building itself.
Yes.
Line 51, MDR.
So an MDR is managed detection and response for cyber insurance requirement to be compliant for tier 1.
Can you explain what managed detection and response is?
So that's the software that actually monitors our network to let us know if there's anything coming in that shouldn't be, and it actually will block it, turn it, shut it down off the network, and then contact us.
Okay. Gazebo lighting, $15,000.
This is right now. There's lighting there, and it's a at-home system, just cheaply bought and put up. It does have some issues with it, so this is for a commercial system to manage it better.
iPads for recreation, $2,500.
A request by rec for the camps. So they're off-site and they would like to be able to conduct registration at the camps.
Municipal court recording system, $30,000.
So this system is over 10 years old. as Kayla puts its on its lifeline. It's on life support, so it definitely needs to be replaced, and we are working on getting that.
And then the last one, the last one is one that, excuse me, Krista and I had a discussion about, and I've had an opportunity to review what this is. It's part of our GIS function, and I'm going to push this one to 2026. So this last $125,000 will be coming out and will not be included in the capital budget. This is something that our GIS technician would use. It's a technical piece of software, I guess I would say, as it relates to mapping, and it's not something that we have to have done. I know it says last done 2005. It's not something that we need to have done at this time. I think it can wait until 2026.
So the budget is actually down.
Yes. So with that 125 out, it'll be a lower capital budget in IT than last year, correct?
Yeah, one of my questions was going to be, is there anything on the end of life replacement items? They still work, they still function. It's just an expected life is probably come due. I was going to ask if there are items that we can postpone to maybe next year on the end of life items that still work.
For IT purposes, no, because security, we don't get security updates anymore. We would be putting ourselves at a risk. Hardware that goes down, we would no longer have support. And then we would potentially be, users would potentially not have access to the system. So anything that comes, a computer that's end of life, it's going to be or out of warranty, I should say. Yes, because we usually have one or two sitting on the shelf. But 2012 server OS is coming to end of life. So any of those servers have to get upgraded or we will no longer get security updates. For Windows 10, that's becoming end of life. So we have to be at Windows 11 to get security updates.
And we have to have compliant machines to be compliant with our insurance.
Yes.
So,
and at the same time, it's going to affect the speed of our computers too.
Well, you're asking if it will increase the speed of our computers?
Yes, it will affect the speed of our computers.
If we don't update, is what they're saying is if we don't update, then we might have some lag, right, in information sharing or going. But if they do update, then they will be part of that renewal update system. Yes.
Okay, then we need to upgrade it then. We need to upgrade them.
I do have a question on one of the line items, Bob. If you can scroll up, I think you said 30,000 for routers, phone routers, and switches, right? Is that not part of the top line item that has hardwares and softwares for the phone for 75,000?
No, so each building, there's one at each building. There's a phone router, and that does the switching for the calls. What the other line item is our actual hardware. It's actually VMware of Call Manager and Unity. That's where where the software lives, basically. How we control our phones, how we control the voicemail, and that type of thing. So these phone routers are, that's where everything gets hooked up into the network, basically. I don't want to be technical, but, and then anything that, if there are POTS lines that are 911, like the police have cards on theirs that have the 911 hooked up to it, or their, that kind of thing. So that hardware is actually the reason it even got brought to my attention. It was the paging system at the police department is also connected through there, and their paging system's down. And I can't get support for it because they're out of warranty.
Okay, good questions. Anyone have any other questions on the capital budget items? There are at the bottom of this page other capital items for water. Since Chris, well, I think that it might be, but you can go through them, but it might be beneficial to have Carl in that presentation because he might have some information. Or do you feel comfortable handling it now? Either way.
I do.
You got it.
Video surveillance is actually there's been an unidentified vulnerability within the pump stations and water tanks. So they want to add cameras to those stations.
And those vulnerabilities, I believe, were identified by the DEP. That's my understanding. Yeah.
The SCADA server rebuild, so that is along the lines of 2012 issues. The OS needs to be upgraded, the hardware needs to be upgraded, the firewall. This is was put in 2018, and for the importance of what SCADA is, which is our water utility, needs to get upgraded. So, and Rockwell is the software, and we're a few versions behind.
And this is the system that controls all of the pump stations and interconnect and valves within the water system. So now you covered it. And then the last is that there is oh no, I'm sorry. That's it. That's the IT capital budget, and now complete without Carl. So, are there any questions on the technology capital budget or any items on it that we haven't touched on?
Thank you, Krista. Thank you for being there to make this work.
No problem.
Okay, Krista, I'd say you could leave, but you can't. But the next on our agenda is the last on our agenda, which is the clerk's budgets. Anne Marie?
Yeah, I'm here.
I thought you might be.
I'm still here.
So the first budget in the clerk budget is the clerk budget. Clerk budget is proposed at $61,819, which is a $13,615 increase over 2024, with professional consultant and specialized services up $12,000 as the bulk of that increase of $13,615. Anne Marie, you want to touch on that?
Yes, that is for the preservation and imaging of our vital statistic books. Some of them are in really bad shape and they're permanent. But Siva is actually out there. She can explain it much better than I can as the registrar.
Siva?
Yeah.
So tell us about the registrar's books and why they need to be restored and
It's the old birth certificates book from 1925 to 1986. The binding is apart. Some of the pages are ripped out and stuff like that. So it needs to be restored.
And so I'm just going to ask a quick question because I'd love to know. How far back do our registrar records go?
We have some records from 1925 to current. I know in 1930 there was a fire, so some of the records got burnt up in the fire. So it's not many, but it's some from 1925.
And we're required to keep them that far back?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Anne Marie, how far back to the books go for the clerk's office?
All the way back to
1798.
1798.
When we were incorporated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
They're handwritten.
Years ago.
What'd you say,
See, but
Andrew?
how far?
They're handwritten.
Oh, yeah.
And see, but how far back do the death records go?
Death records, all vital stats, I think is 1930 to current. We do have some, like, yeah, because of the fire.
Okay. So are there any other questions on the clerk budget?
Bob, I think there's a question from the audience on the chat group.
Yeah, there's a question. If you could answer that as a courtesy, that would be nice. I don't know what it's a reference to, but the word tier 1 was mentioned, and I think some people in the audience were not sure what that was referring to. Thank you, Sheep. I just want...
Mr. Mayor?
Let me look. Yeah,
Just about 5 minutes ago.
Go ahead and answer it, but
I don't see it. I have.
It says, what does tier 1 mean?
Tier 1 where?
The IT budget, when it came to the security.
I'm sorry, I'll turn chat off, but I could answer her. It is the cybersecurity insurance has, was it 2 or 3 tiers?
3 tiers.
3 tiers.
So the cybersecurity insurance within the joint insurance fund has 3 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. There's an obligation to work towards obtaining tier 3 level. At tier 1, we've risked a significant exposure should we have a cybersecurity attack, as far as what the township would be obligated to pay for anything like ransomware. And so tier 3 is what the goal has been set by the joint insurance fund and the municipal excess liability joint insurance fund, which insures the township for those costs over $300,000, that all municipalities in the MELGIF shall obtain tier 3 certification on their cybersecurity practices. So it's tier 1 is the lowest level.
Okay, back to the clerk's budget.
The task at hand here. Okay, so that, if there's no other questions on Anne Marie's clerk budget, I'll move to the next one. Which is the council budget. The council budget is proposed at $20,298, which is a $958 decrease from 2024's $21,256. And there's no increases to the 25 budget, just two decreases.
There's one increase, and that has
Is there?
The increased league dues.
Oh.
There.
Oh, I'm sorry, 451, yes.
So see
Now I see it. Yeah, I apologize. Last line there, and all of your faces on my screen are blocking things on my spreadsheet, so I need to move that away. Professional association dues up $451. Otherwise, 2 decreases in conferences and meetings and education and training. Questions on the council budget? Okay. Last of the night, elections. Election budget has an increase of $2,800 from $37,024 to $39,800 in 25, with increases in each of the 2 lines, $2,400 for printing and binding and $400 for other contractual. Anne Marie?
The printing and binding, that is where the sample ballots come out of, and with the ward election with the 5 different sample ballots, it needs to be increased a little. And the other contractual items, that $400 is the increase to renting the armory for the 2 elections. Federal government keeps up in our lease.
The state of New Jersey increased our lease. Any questions on that one?
I'm sorry, what are the sample ballots? I thought the ballots came from the county or somewhere else.
The county prints them, but we pay for them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that keeps increasing. The printing costs that we get, when we get that bill, I always have to hold my breath because I pray that I have enough in there.
Is that by states? I'm sorry, Anne Marie, I thought you were finished. Is that by state statute that the township is responsible to the county for the hard cost?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about election budgets?
So my question is, do we have a summation of all of this dollar-wise?
Well, we're not done yet, Mr. Mayor, but we do. And in fact, at the last Financial Oversight Committee meeting, we went through all of the appropriations for tonight and next week's budgets. So we do. That's will be part of this, I think, summing up after we complete next week.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, the meeting is back to you.
So council discussion on budget items only. Anyone have any more questions or issues? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
No, moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.